thing needs to move like a freight train, and it needs to scare the pants off of you. Yeah. And so actually, I believe that. I think about those great times. You know, like I used to do a lot of improv in high school as a side job, where other kids were working at Wendy's. I was doing improv, and improv is terrifying. But when you can like lock into that fear, you can ride that wave, and some wonderful things can happen. Because when we're scared, you know, and you're trying to navigate territory that you don't know, you're just saying yes to everything. You know, doesn't, you know, if somebody's chasing you, that door's open, you're going through it. You know, or if there's any door there, you're going to go through it. And the same is true, I think, with acting in fear. That you're put in a place where, hopefully, where that fear drives you to just say yes to the world around you. And so, you know, what that means is that there's potential for things to feel alive and look alive and be alive for the actor. And then that way we don't have the opportunity, and I think it's a good thing that we don't have the opportunity to then sit back and go, oh, that was good. You know, you're really making your way through, you know, this company or whatever. But yeah.
Is that the answer to the question?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's like a presidential debate.
No.
Yeah.
No. Well, it may be the answer to the next question, which is when we talked earlier this summer, you said you never think about your talent. Is there more to that, or is that the whole what you just said was the whole thing of that, or is there something else that goes on around that?
I try not to. I mean, I think about it in that, like, I don't know. I don't know. I get like I think about it when I want it to be affirmed. That's when I think about it. You know, if I'm coming out after a show and I know that there's some people that are in the audience, or I know particular people that are coming to see the show, and if I walk by them and they don't say anything, then I think about my talent quite a bit. And I think about it for the next 4 days and really hate it. And then it's so funny. And then if somebody says something nice, if I walk by them and they say something nice, then I make every effort to pretend like I'm not thinking about my talents. So, I don't know. I'm just as vain as the rest of them. So.
Well, let's talk for a minute about Equivocation. It was directed by Bill Rauch.
Yeah.
Did you have a sense when you first read this play that this could be something extraordinary?
No, I had the exact opposite sense. To be totally honest, when I first read Equivocation, what I did was I went to the last page and I went, 140 pages? Who the hell writes a play that's 140 pages long, you know?
Yeah.
Lear is 130, you know? And so I thought, oh my God. And then so that was my very first thought. And then each subsequent thought was built off of that, so that as I was reading through, I was like, oh, and there are theater jokes, in-jokes. It's like, nobody's going to get these jokes. You know, this is just not the Shakespeare jokes. I thought our audience is going to get the Shakespeare jokes, but then we've got these in-jokes, these kind of like nudge theater jokes, and I thought, nobody's going to get this stuff. And I was nervous. And then I was in North Carolina doing Glass Menagerie, and Joe Hodge, who directed Henry and runs the Playmakers in North Carolina, I was sitting around the theater one day reading Equivocation because I was getting ready to start rehearsals. And Joe walked by and he said, what are you reading? And I said, this new play by Bill King. He goes, Equivocation? And I said, yeah. And he goes, oh, isn't it amazing? It's so amazing. It's like there's so many things going on at once. And he kind of went off on this speech about why Equivocation is so great. And here's a man that I respect hugely, and I was, knows way more about everything than I do. So I thought, maybe I'm missing something. So then I, read through it with that perspective. But then I remember talking to the other cast members, and we were all really nervous because of many of the same things. It's really long. It's dense material. And there's a lot of kind of inside humor. Then we did the workshop of the play in December. So this would have been a month before we started rehearsals. We all flew back to Ashland for a week-long workshop. And we just kind of read through the play, talked about the play, did exercises, theater games, all that kind of stuff. And then at the end, Bill Rauch said, at the very end of the week, Bill said, so Bill Kane and I had this thought that maybe you guys could just do like a run-through of the play with, staging and whatever. And we went, what? We've just been reading it. You want us to yeah, full staging. Don't worry. We know that many things are going to be terrible, but whatever you feel like doing, just do, and whatever. So we did a run through of Equivocation after having worked on it for a week. maybe 30 hours. We did a full run-through of the show from beginning to end, and many of the ideas that were generated in that completely spontaneous run-through made it into the final production. And it was during that, again, this kind of fear where you're just saying yes to everything, where all of these things started to blossom in the text. And we started to realize that the kind of muscularity that would be required to do the show, the kind of attention and focus that would be required to do the show, but also the simplicity that was required to do the show. I think one of the things that made our production successful was that it was surprisingly simple. The spectacle in the show were the performances. We didn't have, a helicopter and a chandelier and stuff like that. Our spectacle and equivocation were the actors switching characters, and we realized that kind of simplicity could be surprisingly spectacular from a theatrical perspective. And it was, so that's when all of us went, oh, this is good, and we need to rise to the occasion. So then we spent 8 brutal weeks rehearsing it, and they were really difficult weeks. The hardest rehearsal process I've ever had in my life. The most frustrated I've ever been at anything was during that rehearsal process. And each of us had meltdowns at one point or another in front of everybody, in that way that actors do, I guess, but whatever. So we did that, and then we were so terrified at first preview. And first preview happened, and it was long and a little too long, but the audience was warming up to it. Second preview was really solid, and then opening was like this explosion. And we went, oh, this is something. And then it just kept accumulating.
In the rehearsal process, I understand Bill Kane was pretty involved in that process.
Yeah, for a playwright.
What was that like for you, to have the author, and that particular author, a Jesuit priest, I think?
Those Jesuits.
Yeah.
Always trying to direct plays. Bill Kane is a very intense man, and he has incredibly high standards for the art that he's viewing, which is surprising because he appreciates lowbrow entertainment so much. This is a quick digression. So that there was a moment in equivocation when Gregory Linnington and I would appear on top of these steps as James and Buckingham, and we'd have this kiss, and it always got this from the audience kind of stuff. Well, when we were rehearsing that, Bill Rausch wanted some indication of what we had just been doing prior to the kiss, if there was a way that we could indicate that through behavior on stage, So Bill Kane then gave us ideas of things that Buckingham and James were doing off stage. And so then we entered for a whole day of rehearsal with this notion of things that we might have been doing off stage. So there was one where we came out in just sword belts and swords, and we had a little fencing match and then left, but it was just sword belts. And Bill Kane was kicking himself with laughter because, one, he knew that none of that was ever going to make it into the production. Right. And two, because it was so Monty Python, not equivocation.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of allowed him to relax a little bit. He's a very intense guy, and yeah, he would give us notes just like the director would give us notes, and it made for a very intense room because we basically had two directors doing the show and us trying to figure out what we should listen to, what not to listen to, how to navigate that touchy ground. So, yeah.
Well, you said something else this summer that I thought was interesting about rehearsals, that you spend time the night before rehearsals pondering the structure of the play. Mm-hmm. How does that inform the process that you go through developing a performance?
Well, I think a lot about story. So everything is cause and effect, especially in Shakespeare. Everything is cause and effect in the good plays. And so, why is Edgar leading leading Gloucester to this bluff that he's convincing him is Dover? Why does he allow him to attempt to commit suicide? What are those steps? Everything has a cause and effect. And so what I try to do is I try to think about what is necessary for the audience to know in a story perspective for this moment, so that if they're not getting the story, then we're not doing our job. No matter how interesting a choice I think I'm doing, if they're not getting that I don't know why I'm using Lear as an example, it's just what's in my head, but if they're not getting that Edgar is using this disguise to kind of psych out his father so that his father can put himself to the point of despair so that when he revives himself, that he'll be alive and with joy, and want to tackle life from that point on. If they're not getting that, no matter what interesting choices I'm coming up with, then they're not getting the play. And we're doing a major disservice to the play in that case. So I think that's what I think about a lot the night before. What is the cause and effect? What's the cause and effect? So I'm trying to think of an example from this season. Animal crackers won't serve because we throw cause and effect out the window in that show. But it's effect and cause. About structure quite a bit in Animal Crackers, where we go. There's a moment in Animal Crackers, the song "Watching the Clouds Roll By," where Eddie and Laura Griffith are out, and they do a little tap number with the umbrellas and stuff like this. And Mark and I always go, this is the number where we should be intruding in the background and messing with them and all of that kind of stuff, not the number early on in the show. Yeah. And that's just a structural build. We allow the audience to think the show's going to go.
I'm going to use that with Mark.
Shoot now, ask questions later.
I'm going to use that with Mark on Saturday.
Yeah, please do. But surprisingly though, we do think a lot about structure, and Mark and I still talk